สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ
Happy New Year
Yes
2026 now it's our second episode discussing about financing and how to double the profit
Yep
last episode we discussing about 2035 right how we double the profit but in this episode we are trying to dig down and discuss about this year 2026 double the profit and how we cope with this kind of like vocable or things that like very hectic but first before we discuss that can you introduce yourself? Who are you? What is your interest in this year and the next?
Okay. My name is A.Stotz, and I've been a financial analyst my whole life and teaching finance. So I basically, the main thing that I love to work on is the Profit Bootcamp, where I help mid-sized family businesses double profit in 12 months, guaranteed or money back. That is the number one place where I think I can make the biggest impact in Thailand.
So you say that you're focusing on mid-sized families. So what is your mid-sized family like definite? Is like the sales revenue or is it a profit?
It's a combination of number one, sales revenue. Let's say annual revenue needs to be above 400 million baht.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is it needs to be not a one-man show or a one-woman show. There needs to be a management team. If there's no management team, they don't need me. It's one heroic man or woman driving it.
Right.
So, and then they need to have their accounting in order. If they don't have their accounts in order, then how are we going to really focus in on where is the profit in this business?
Yeah.
And most importantly, they got to have a desire to double the profit. Surprisingly, many companies don't have that desire.
Sure. Like a lot of times, like they tend to think that it's okay for us to do like this type of business, not growing, but we can live on our own. But I totally agree with you that in terms of business, we have to grow. We have to double the sales to move things forward, right? Yeah, but in terms of like 2026, we know that in 2025, in Thai, we like to call like เผาจริง It's kind of like, it is the real dynamic world? Is it a real competitive world? Like China is coming in, a lot of like political competitive in Thailand. So what is your view in 2026 landscape?
So the first question I have for you and for the listeners and viewers is, did you double profit after the last time we talked, right? Or did you at least increase it? That's the objective that I focus on. When I look at the business environment, there's all kinds of excuses. You know, politics, global competition, many, many different things. You know, labor market.
Like price war. Yeah.
So are you going to live your life with excuses or are you going to figure out how to win? You know, I've been taking care of my mother in Bangkok for 9 years now. One big lesson I learned from that, she's 87, is if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. That wasn't a case when I was a kid. Like, you know, if you're not moving forward, you're still strong. You can hold your position. But that's not the case in business. If you're not moving forward, someone else is taking your customer. So the question is, do you want to grow? And I think that's really the challenge. And I would say, when I look at the landscape of Thailand, I would say thousands of family businesses will close in 2026, 2027, 2028. It's over. And the capital and the resources that are locked up in those businesses will be redeployed to more successful business. And so really the question is, which one do you want to be? You know, a lot of people know their business is dying and they don't have the energy or the resources to make it survive. I understand that. I've seen that situation many times. But for those people that says, I don't want to die. I want to survive. I want to thrive. There's a lot of work to be done right now.
So what you're saying that the landscape of 2026 is like move or die, right? If you stay as you are, someone will take your place. And then if you start moving, you will go forward. So that's kind of like 2026 landscape.
Move or die.
Move or die.
In fact, I had some students from Chula that asked me in a meeting that we had. They asked me like, Ajahn, what do I do? You know, like everybody's getting a job and I'm interviewing and I'm really, you know, what should I do about, you know? And I said, I'm the wrong guy to ask because I don't care about the other people. When I was your age, I didn't care what other people were doing. I cared about what I was focused on and what I was driving forward. And so in 2026, my point would be, I don't care. And ultimately, business owners need to put aside all the excuses, all of the scary stuff and decide, are we going forward or are we dying? And all the excuses, you know, politics. I've been in Thailand now almost 34 years. It's politics every year.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's a bullshit excuse. Yeah. You know, economy. I'm sorry, we've been through much worse, right? When the 97 crisis happened in 1998, I remember the economy fell. GDP fell by 11%. I'm sorry, that was much worse. And companies were leveraged to the hill. We had 5 years of stagnation. We're not in that situation. But the question really is, are you going to move or die?
So things that like a good family business that will survive in 2026, like a family business that move forward and trying to fix themselves.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is, you know, we have to accept the reality, right? Here's where we are. Here's where we're weak. Here's where we're strong. Here's what's happening in the economy. Here's what's happening with our competitors. We have to face that reality. I think that what's happened for a lot of people is that they're not facing it. And they think, what, the government's going to solve the problem? Since when is the Thai government going to solve the problem of a business or of businesses? In fact, if you expect the Thai government to solve the problem, they're probably going to make the problem worse. So ultimately, we got to first accept the current state. And then we've got to make a decision. Do we want to climb the mountain? You know, ultimately, what I do is help people get from here to the top of the mountain. It's hard. It's painful. It's going to take resources. It's going to take new thinking. It's going to take a lot of things to get there. And so you got to make a decision. And just sitting there on, you know, I see a lot of people like they have their grandparents or their parents started a business now. They're taking it over and they're kind of stuck, not really sure exactly what direction to go. Well, my point is you can't stay stuck forever. You got to resolve it and then come up. And so when I work with companies, I always say nothing left unresolved. Everything must be resolved, or else we can never truly go forward the way we need to.
That's the interesting point because like a lot of time family business not trying to resolve things that they're like tied and not years before, right? What types of or what kind of problem should be resolved before you like moving things forward?
Well, the first thing is that, you know, when I look at Thailand, I see a lot of very rich families who can sit in conflict for decades.
Doing nothing.
Yeah, and their assets are still there and they're still surviving, whether it's business, land, you know, other things. Their assets are there. So for those people that can sit in that discomfort without any major changes but still protect their assets, congratulations. Like your parents or your grandparents have put you in a position where you can survive no matter what. That's not my client. That is my friend, and I see them. I just ran into one of them at the Emporium the other day, and you know, I just can see he's not gonna rock any boat because he's got what he needs to survive, and therefore he's there. So that's not the type of people I'm looking for and that I work with. But the people that say we have to resolve this, and you know, in Thailand, it's so common. You know, conflict is not rewarded in Thai culture. In American culture, conflict is encouraged. What do you think about that? What do you think? Talk it out, right? It doesn't happen.
Things that I learned from like study abroad. One definition that I like very much, it is constructive conflict. So I have my perspective, you have yours. That's fine. But things that if we want to work together, what is the solution that we are having kind of like the middle ground? So that's kind of the constructive. Okay, I have mine, you have yours, but what's the solution. So I think that types of mentality doesn't have in like Thai.
It's
Thai
hard.
culture.
It's hard in Thailand. In fact, to take it a step further, the way to think that is, we disagree. So disagree, but move forward together. That is an interesting thing because you think we should go this way. I think we should go that way. We're not going to convince each other of that, but we've got to decide one way. And let's say that we decide we're going to go your way. We're going to disagree, but we're going to move together forward. That almost never happens.
Yeah, but how can like a family business choose that path? Because like when it's time to decide, what is the way of thinking, the thought process that before they decide, like how can they do it?
I mean, one of the things that I came to really appreciate about American democracy was the concept of debate. And the concept of debate is so critical because you need extreme strong views on one side and extreme strong views on the other, colliding for the observers to be able to make some conclusion. Otherwise, we're just stuck in the middle. So this is why in my ethics class at Chula, I teach, I have them do debates. And I basically have them bring up evidence points. You know, this is your argument. What evidence do you have to support that this is the right thing? And I teach it and I design it in such a way that it carries over into business. So when I work with companies, I work basically with the owners and the management team. Basically, it's, what's your points? What are your evidence points supporting that your way is the right way? And so it takes evidence, it takes testing, it takes a lot of work to be really confident that this is the way, but we're never going to know until we go. And I think as an investor in the stock market all of my life and as an analyst, I know you're never going to be right all the time. So even if we did all of our research and said this is the way to go and we all agreed, it doesn't mean it's going to work. We only know in hindsight. We only know after it happens.
Yeah. So I think it's narrow down. So like in 2026 landscape, it's kind of like move or die. And then you're talking about you have to have some conflict. And then eventually you have to decide something, right? So my next question is what types of businesses are the future in 2026 and what type of business will be left behind?
One of the things that's really fascinating is if you think about corporate strategy, Michael Porter, the famous corporate strategist, told us that there's really two main types of strategy. Number one is to be a differentiator. Think about Starbucks. Or to be a low-cost leader. Think about McDonald's. You don't go to McDonald's for the feeling of the place. You just go for, good, cheap food. But you go to Starbucks, you're going to pay a lot. And they've differentiated. Like I feel relaxed when I go there and feel like I want to sit and take notes and all that. So this is the concept. So in Thailand, over the past 50 years, let's say, being a low-cost leader is mainly what we were. Thai companies could compete globally and within Thailand as a low-cost leader. Well, thanks to China, that road, that path is almost like a dead end. The ability of Thai companies to be a low-cost leader is almost gone. And the reason why is because now it's a global market. You're competing globally. But the second thing is that in order to be a low-cost leader, you have to have an extreme, intense focus on reducing costs, number one. But you also have to have economies of scale. You can't have a small business be a low-cost leader. And that's where China is so impressive in that they have an intense focus on cutting costs. And they have the economies of scale that allow those cost cuts to be really felt around the world. So my point is that majority of Thai companies have not built brands and a unique competitive position. They've just built products and services to support. And therefore, many of these are going to have to make a decision. Can we upgrade ourselves to be premium, to be a brand, all that? And I would say most low-cost leaders can't do it. So that is the reason why I say a lot of Thai companies are going to go out of business because If you say, okay, we're a low-cost leader, but we really want to build out a brand and we want to, bring more value and all that, many companies won't be able to do it. And because it's a dead end as a low-cost leader because of China and because of global competition, you got to make a choice. So even more move or die.
Yeah, but how can they like rebound themselves? Because like decades before they are down to the price war.
I think they can't. That's what I'm saying. They can't.
They can't.
Many of them cannot. They cannot survive in this situation because they've been, and people tell me, and I hear it, that, oh yeah, it's price war and it's very competitive. I could never increase my price. Right. With that mentality, you will never move up the value chain. You just can't. And part of what I try to do is help clients think about what's the highest value we can bring to this situation and how do we make sure that we're bringing maximum value to the clients. And I think that most people just say, look, just cut the cost, cut the price, get the job, and then let's run our business. And I just think you're not going to be able to survive with that very easily.
The types of businesses that going to survive is a business that focusing on the value that provide to the client. And the business that will be left behind is mainly about like the price sensitive. Is it possible that can they change the management and then turn around?
It's possible. I mean, you got to make serious changes. If you're going to make that leap, you've got to make really serious changes, right? And that's hard, because like we just said, DNA, I always say that whatever your corporate strategy is, it's got to fit your DNA. And think about a good company started 30, 50 years ago. The kids are running it. But the fact is, they have a low-cost mentality. They're never going to win. Eventually, what's going to happen is they're going to be driven out of the market.
Yeah.
And they're going to be shut down. And the assets that they have will be able to be sold for some money, but not a huge amount. And then those kids will go and work for other companies and do a role in those other companies. Those other companies need those people too, right? Like we don't benefit in society when everybody's sitting in a bad situation and not willing to make a change. And that's where I would say the economy and the situation of competitive situation is forcing that change. And you've got to decide what's the best allocation of your energy as a business owner, as a management team. And I would argue that there are plenty of companies that the best allocation of their energy is to stop the business, liquidate the assets, and bring themselves into another business, start another business possible, but they still go into it with the same DNA.
Yeah, right.
So very hard, but then, or go work for another company and make it great.
The point that you make is very interesting is that in some company, in some of like the business model, cannot be working in 2026. So it is possible to diversify yourself into the new industry, but in condition that you have to change your DNA. And if you're doing that right, you are able to survive that. So it's come to my next question. So in 2026, that it is possible to double the profit in 26, right? So what kind of things like the success factor that you can double the profit in 2026?
I think that any company that's really serious about doubling profit and serious about the future of their business can double profit. In fact, it's no magic formula. The companies I work with, the management teams, the owners, they know. They just aren't doing it. They know that they're losing in this area and they should really shut that down. They know that a certain group of their employees is not performing and they should really let them go. They know that maybe some family, different aspects should be separated and let one group get on with it. It's a lot like, when you get fat and you want to lose weight.
You have to lead yourself.
It's no secret.
Yeah.
We can go to Kinokuniya. In fact, I'm going to go there after this talk.
Yeah.
At Siam Paragon, and there I can find 20 books on losing weight.
Yeah.
All the information's there. So it's not like it's some rocket science. It's like it takes, number one, a commitment. Now, in the Profit Bootcamp case, my clients have to sign a profit manifesto to say their number one goal for the next 12 months is to double profit. You don't sign it, I don't work with you. And my clients can fire me any month, and I can fire them any month. If you're not staying on track, as I will guide them, right? Go ahead and do what you're doing. And so the first thing is understanding it's no secret miracle. You know, anybody watching this video right now knows where the points are where they need to fix their business. It's only a small number that don't know, but most of them know. Like I have one client where I spent a lot of time with my colleague going through all their data, their accounting, and I basically said, here are your 20 money-losing customers. And here are your 5 out of 50 money-losing products. What action are you going to take with these? And they looked at it and they said, yeah, no surprise. You know, we just were able to produce the data and help them see that. But it wasn't like it was a surprise. Then the hard part is, what are you going to do? Oh, yeah, well, we give a good price to them because of X, Y, Z. And yeah, we keep that product because, yeah, go, do it. But when you want to double profit, you got to take action. And if you're going to double profit in a year, you got to move now. And, you know, ultimately, what I want to do when I work with companies is, first thing I want to do is figure out how do we bring more value to the marketplace. Many companies are bringing very low value to the marketplace. And when they try to bring more value, it doesn't work or whatever. So how do we change the way the product is positioned in the market? The corporate strategy of the company. That's why the first module in the Profit Bootcamp is corporate strategy. We've got to figure out where is your uniqueness, your unique advantage. That's number one. And obviously the best way to increase double profit is to increase revenue, either by more customers or getting a higher price, bringing more value. But if that doesn't work, we still have to cut costs. And so I do have recently a client of mine that after working for many months, it became clear that they didn't have a strategy to produce strong growth. The way to think about this is you need to tell me, how are you going to produce 10 to 20% growth annually in this business? And if you can't come up with a good reason or a good way to do that, then you're going to have to double profit by cutting costs. And that's what I came up with. I said, look, you're coming up with things that are giving us 5% growth over the next few years. It's not enough. So we have to switch gears. Now we have to cut. And then I said, everybody be prepared. Next time we meet, we're going to go through everything that needs to be cut. And basically, again, nothing left unresolved. As one of my clients said, they said, you gave us the permission to discuss the most difficult things, and you helped guide that discussion, you know, in a civilized way, so we didn't choke each other. And that's really what it is. We just have to deal with the hardest things and stay focused on one goal, which is double profit. I don't care about any other goal that you have. All I care about is doubling profit. And when we focus on one thing, we can achieve it.
So one thing that you mentioned is like you have to look of your unique selling point, right? So what aspect, what angle that you have to look inside your company?
Yeah, so let's think about that. Let's go through some, thinking on that. The first thing we want to think about is we want to understand our competitors, right? And maybe we map out who are our competitors and what's our position relative to those competitors. So that's the first thing we want to do is understand the competitive landscape. And then what we want to try to do is understand what's our DNA. What is it that we love that we do better than others? And once we've started to identify that, now we've got some hints, some clues, right? But we still don't really know. The next question is, we look at the products that you have. Let's just say you sell one product. And that product has different features, right? It's low cost, it's good service, it's this many different things that you have that are what would be considered competitive factors. So if somebody wanted to buy your product, they line it up against another product, and then they say, okay, this one has this one has that, this one has that. These are what we would call competitive factors. Then the next question is, okay, what competitive factor could we remove? What competitive factor could we reduce? what competitive factor could we raise and what competitive factor could we create? This framework comes from Blue Ocean Strategy. And I learned so much from all the books that I've read, and I bring all that knowledge to my clients. But it's very simple. And then once we start to understand that, we can start to think, we're never going to win on this particular factor. So drop all of our effort to win down to zero on that factor. Let's just say low price. We're never going to win. We must reduce our focus on that factor and figure out how we can add something that brings more value to the client. And the problem is the client is the worst consultant because all they're going to do is bring you to the average. Oh, other competitors do this. Why aren't you doing this? Your sales team are the worst strategists because all they're going to do is bring you to the average. Oh, I can't sell if we don't have this, this, and that because the competitor has this, this, and that. I'm sorry, you don't make corporate strategy that way.
You're just comparing stuff.
And so we have to separate ourselves from the operations of the business and step back and start to ask the tough questions. And you know when you come to a good strategy, if people are upset, if customers are upset and employees are upset, chances are you are implementing the concept of corporate strategy. Why? Because we have limited resources. When you make your decision that we're not going to do this because we need those resources to do this and win in this area, the employees that are working in that area, maybe some will be moved, maybe some won't, but none of them are going to be happy that you're going to shut down that part of the business. And the customer is going to say, oh, what about us? You don't do it for us. Yeah, you got enough competitors out there to us that can do it better than us. Take it from them. But this is what we can bring to the market that's unique. And I think, a great example in my case is the Profit Bootcamp. I have 30 years experience as a financial analyst in the stock market. I've had 30 years experience teaching from strategy, finance. These two come together. But I also have 30 years experience of running my own business, which is a factory in Thailand. And I bring all those things together with my intense focus. And I focus on one thing. There's many consultants. You could go to any of the great consulting companies, McKinsey, Bain, any of them. They're fantastic. And they can beat me in everything. But there's one thing I can do that they can't. And that is double profit in 12 months, guaranteed. So we've got to look at where you can bring a unique message and a unique offering to the market that others can't or they won't. If you go to McKinsey and you say, A.Stotz says he can double our profit, I want you to tell me what's the price for you to help me double my profit so I can compare. What's McKinsey going to say? We don't do it that way.
Yeah.
Right? So right there, we have to think about a category of one. And where can we focus? We need to compete where we can win.
The unique selling point, you say that you have to find things that you are able to win inside the market, right? So what kind of like the double profit framework that you're bringing inside to be able to win in your situation?
So let's say it's kind of ridiculously simple in a sense because you're halfway there by making a commitment that you're going to double profit in the next 12 months. Once that has been signed and agreed upon,
that's the first step.
Once you've made that decision, everything changes. Think about people who quit smoking. Think about people who start exercising. They tried to quit many, many, many times, but then there was one day where they said, that's it. They tried to exercise many, many years, but they never did. But then one year, that's it. They started exercising. So the decision is probably the most important part. Then the question is, how do we as a management team, together with me guiding them, say, now we're on this together. Now we've got to solve this. And that's where basically I have modules. So first module is corporate strategy, where I spend a lot of time working with them to try to help them understand, like, where do we compete? Second one is finance, where I teach them how I benchmark their businesses and understand the financial performance and what's the weakness. We need to start working on the weakness of the company immediately in order to double profit in 12 months. The third one is marketing. One of the reasons why companies aren't so great at marketing is because they don't have a great message. And that's the whole point of corporate strategy is who are we? What are we bringing to this world? How is it making a difference, right? And once we do that, once we come up with that, then our marketing message can be clarified, simplified, and replicated. And so we spend a lot of time looking at marketing and how do we position ourselves. And then after marketing, we move into sales. There's no point in revving up sales if you don't know where you're going and you don't have a clear marketing message. So that brings me to the next module, which is sales. And so I follow a series of modules in the Profit Bootcamp.
So it's kind of like 4 simple frameworks that you're.
It's 9 modules.
It's 9 modules.
Because we still have to look at leadership team. We need to think about how we manage, how we scale this business. There's many. It's basically a full MBA program, but done only focused on one thing. How can we take what we're learning and apply it to double profit?
9 frameworks, like the whole framework.
9 modules.
Have 9 modules, but the North Star is doubling your profit.
Every one of those modules I've designed to focus on doubling profit. Now, there's another aspect to it. Is that I had a teacher when I was young, Dr. W. Edwards Deming, who was the father of the quality movement. And his teaching is incredible, very rare, not very common to have. And so there's about 7 aspects of what Dr. Deming teaches that I bring in from my own books that I've written and courses I've written on what I've learned from him. And those things are pretty revolutionary, like the idea of thinking of a business as a flow. Most of the time we think of it as an org chart.
Yeah.
Who's got the power? But that's not the best way to look at a business. The best way to look at a business is we have to think about this flow through the business to the customer, feedback from the customer back to the business. Just to give an example of one of the things. So I teach some of this to help them. The other thing is that, I think that the worst virus that has come, not from Wuhan, China, but from America into Thailand, is KPIs. And KPIs are causing incredible destruction in companies. In particular, I'm talking about individual KPIs or department KPIs. The reason why is because what they do is they set employees against each other. They set departments against each other. There's only a limited pool of bonus, and not everybody's going to get it. And this really impacts the core strength of the Thai workforce, is that they work together. They're friendly. They want a harmonious environment, and yet KPIs blow that up. And the point is that think about a symphony. In a symphony, if everybody stood up and played to their best to hit their KPI of being the best saxophone player and the best percussionist, it would sound terrible. We have to think of business as a system where you can't have every part of that system optimized, or else you're going to sub-optimize the whole output. So systems thinking and things like that, those are some additional things that I bring that are really coming from the depths of my knowledge about that.
But things that a lot of business like to argue that we want to maximize our staff and employee, so we have to implement the KPI, because sometimes we don't know whether or not they are working at their full capacity or not. So if you say that KPI is the destruction of the corporate, so what types of things that you can drive the internal culture forward?
Well, think about it this way, right? Go back to when you were young, or look around in this world at the great things that have been accomplished. They were accomplished through teamwork. Think about the best times that you've had with your own business or in your own life. It's when you're working in collaboration with other people to achieve a common goal. And that's what business is, ultimately. So the first thing we have to understand is that just incentivizing everybody individually is not going to get the best result. So the simplest way we could do it in my own business, Coffee Works, in 2016, I just gave up on KPIs and we stopped them. And the second thing that we did is we said, okay, bonus and compensation is going to be tied to the performance of the overall company. Mm-hmm. All of us are going to work together to get the performance of the overall company up. Mm-hmm. And that's the simplest way that you can step away from KPIs. Now, some people may say, oh, but Andrew, we have a lot of KPIs in our company and all that, and I can't just take it out. Okay, just do one thing. Remove the connection between compensation and KPI. Disconnect compensation from KPI. Now KPI becomes kind of a coaching management tool. But the problem is, as soon as you put a financial incentive to an individual, they're going to find a way to get it.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying that if you disconnect the compensation and the KPI, it will be the management coaching systems.
Yeah. So what I always tell people is don't confuse KPIs with management.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Management is about having the right team, working with a team, keeping them focused on accomplishing the things that you need from that team. Mm-hmm. And just go back 30, 40, 50 years. Before we had all of this business jargon, we had many great things accomplished by businesses. They didn't know anything about KPI. They're like, you got this, you go on that, you work on this, I'll do that, and then we're going to meet and we're going to pull this together and we're going to bring it to the market. And how exciting is that? You know, I know that all employees feel great when they're contributing to bringing something of high value to the market. So many of the reasons why people are not succeeding these days is because they think that KPIs and tracking each individual is how you get the maximum out. It never is the case.
But how can you know that every staff is contributing equally and maximizing?
They're never going to contribute equally.
Mm-hmm.
I have one example of, I used to be the head of research of a research team at CLSA, and one of my guys really worked well at night. Mm-hmm. So I had a new boss come in from Hong Kong and he said, 7 a.m. we have our morning meeting. This guy's always late. He's there at 7:15, 7:30. I want you to do something about it because everybody needs to be treated equally in this business. You know, we need to be fair. And I said, look, that guy's 15 minutes late this morning because I know at 11 p.m. he sent me a message that he finished the presentation that he wants to give to clients today. 11 p.m. He worked all day until 11 p.m. And now you want me to tell him, oh, you're in trouble because you're 15 minutes late. We're going to cut off the joy that he had of trying to bring something to the client. He's going to come on time, for sure. He'll be on time, but then you're going to lose from him. So the concept is we can't, the idea of treating everybody equally, I just don't think makes sense in management, number one. Number two is, one of the scariest things that I see, particularly of the new generation, like recently graduated, is that because of this KPI virus, they think that they can sit behind a computer and track performance of individuals through measuring their KPIs. And if I can just get more KPI dashboards, I can get better performance out of people. Nonsense. We have to break free from this and say a manager can only manage a certain number of people. You can't manage 1,000 people with one person.
Yeah.
But let's say that you are a manager and you got 7 people that you're managing. You need to work with them closely and coach and guide and push and give them time, you know, and that's management. So let's not confuse KPIs with management.
If we draw back a bit, so when you're talking about doubling the profit, a lot of management team would say that, okay, what types of financial indicator that you can look inside in order you to double your profit truly?
So for me, I really look at 2 measures, profitability and growth.
Yeah.
How much profit does this company make based upon the assets that they have in their business?
Okay.
And the second one is, are they growing their profit, right? If you can make a high profit for assets that you have in your business, but you're not growing because your prices are too high, as an example. That doesn't work. So I look at a composite score of profitability and growth. I call it profitable growth. Now, the problem that many companies face is that they think they're doing well, but they really don't know. They try to benchmark. They look at their competitors. Maybe they can get some data. They do some analysis. But the fact is that what I do is I look at 26,000 companies worldwide, and I look at these every single quarter, and I calculate their profitability and growth and their profitable growth score. And from that, I then look at my clients relative to that and say, where are you? Are you number one in the top decile and you are producing strong profitable growth like your global peers? Or are you 10 and doing terrible relative to your global peers?
10 is the lowest. Right?
10 is the worst.
Okay. So it's kind of like you're measuring the growth, like the growth margin and like the growing of the profit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like two key financial indicator that you're looking. And what about the OPEX? Do the management have to look inside that also?
Well, of course, we gotta basically what in the finance aspect, which is the second module, I go into a lot of detail on this. But basically, there's two costs that matter in a business. Number one, the cost of creating the product. We call that cost of goods sold. That accounts for about 70% of revenue. The second cost is SG&A, sales, general, and administrative expenses, the cost of running the business. This accounts for about, let's say, 15%, maybe 20%. Let's just say for right now, 15%. So we have to focus on just these two. And the most important one is, what does it cost to make this product, to create this service? If we're a service company, the cost of the employees or coders or whatever, that's where we're going to focus a lot of effort. So that cost of what it takes to create the product. And then the other part is, how do we get a higher price for this product? For every product out there, there's somebody that's willing to pay a higher price. And every time that you think you've got the highest price, you can find more people that would like more value. And they'll pay for that more value. So we really focus on first, positioning the product and service so that they can get a higher price. And the second is, how do we reduce the cost of making the product?
So it's kind of like in the growth aspects and then the cost aspect. So you have like 4 financial indicators that management should look inside their business also.
Very simple. Don't complicate it, right?
Yeah.
Just reduce the cost of making the product. Now, one way to think about the KPIs is, imagine you have a business and you have 10 people that are potentially could work together to reduce the cost of the business, but you've given them KPIs to, you do this, you do that, you're going to be rewarded for that. Imagine that you take all those KPIs off and you get them in a team and you say, what we're going to focus on the next 3 months is how we can drive down the cost of what we're producing. And we're going to celebrate. People don't even want money. What they want is the ability to contribute and bring value. And when they're part of a team that's bringing value and contributing, that's what they want. And that's what they're not getting with KPIs. And so, but you imagine that you gave to your top people that the project is, how do we reduce the cost of producing by, 20 baht per product or whatever that number is? They're going to love it. We meet every single week to discuss, how are we doing it? We can't figure out how to do that. Okay, let's see if we can get some outside advice, get some ideas, look at what others are doing. People are incentivized by exciting projects like that,
Let me recap a bit. So you say in 2026, you are able to double your profit. You have like the framework with 9 modules. You have 4 financial indicators in the growth section and the cost section. I think my last question would like to ask you is about, what should be the first thing a family business should change themselves in order to doubling their profit by their own first?
I think the first thing that a family can do on its own, right, is I would sit down today, get a piece of paper, and write down the problems in the business.
Problem first.
The problems.
Okay.
What are the issues in the business? Make sure it's very clear so that you're not running away from them. Then put that aside. Now you have your awareness. You reinforce the fact that you know. If you don't have a list of problems that the business is facing, you may not be the right person to run the business because you just may not know what it is. But let's say you've got a good list, put it aside. Next thing you want to do is say, what is our DNA? What is the one thing that we can do better than anybody else? Right? That is, or at least better than our competitors. We don't have to be the best in the world. We just have to be better than our competitors. So now we've got a second thing. First, we've got a list of the main problems. The second is we've got a feeling about this is where we can compete, and it's in our DNA. The third thing that I would do is say, what can we cut that does not support this about trying to achieve this new DNA, this new offering? And then I think you have to get aggressive. You have to start to cut things out. Now, in one of my clients' case, when they started cutting things out, they started making more profit right then. And then they started to build up cash from that. And as the cash accumulated in their bank, then they started thinking, now we have the resources to really allocate to solving these problems and focusing in on our DNA.
Yeah, one of your points very interesting. Like, in order to doubling your profit, or at least making more profit, it's not doing something more, but cutting something at your company. That's the simplest thing that you can do. Right?
Totally. We end up doing a lot of things, and only a small number really truly bring value, but we don't stop. We just keep going. Business basically goes towards complexity all the time, and it takes huge effort to bring it to simplicity. And I think my message, to your audience is that you can do it yourself. Just like if you said, I want to lose 20 kilos, you can do it yourself. The books are there, the information's there, it's all there. The question is, can you do it? Will you do it? Right? And I think that you can. If you just make that list of the problems that you have, right? And then you focus on where you can stand out. And then you focus on where can I cut the costs.
These three papers, like, do the management team have to sit together and write down, or is just only one leader writing it down?
It depends on the company. I definitely do a lot of exercises where I have everybody write down separate, and I do surveys and stuff where I try to get a picture.
Okay.
But it's very possible that many of the companies that I work with, there's only really one or two true value generators. The others are running their departments.
They're kind of like the operator, that's all.
They're operators, they're managers versus leaders. And they're good managers, and we need them. But I started the Profit Bootcamp with my own company, Coffee Works, and I work with my management team and my co-founder, Dale, and we worked for 12 months, and we doubled the profit. Just barely, but we did it, right? But when Dale and I sat down to do a final review, we asked, to what extent was the management team responsible for the doubling of a profit? Was it 80% or was it 20%? Yeah, it was more like 20%. Most of it was Dale's ideas, in some cases my ideas, and then Dale saying, let's do this. And then we kind of realized, we need to stop looking at our managers as necessarily leaders in sending the company to a new direction. We need to recognize that they're really good operators. But to then expect that they're going to be able to be a great operator and set the direction of the company, it's unrealistic. And I think that that's one big lesson that we learned going through the Profit Bootcamp. When I first developed it, I applied it to my own company. And we learned that you got to get the right people in the right roles. And they're definitely the right people, for sure. But you can't accept, in English we say you can't expect blood from a stone. Or blood from a turnip, we say is another one. But you can only get get out of people what they can do best. And I think a lot of families, what ends up happening is that they're disappointed with their management team. And so they're frustrated, they're complaining, they're this, that, stop that. First of all, you hired them. and you can fire them or you can move them into something else. So you're responsible. You train them. Stop that complaining. And the third thing is, if they're good employees, you just got to find the right place where they can add the most value and stop expecting them to do incredible things that may not be what they do best.
The first thing that they can do, like writing problems, writing things that they can do better than the competitors. And the third thing is about what things or what issues that they can like reduce or cut out.
What do we cut?
Yeah, I think that's the simplest thing that they can do in family business.
And I'm telling you, if somebody watches this and they do those three things and they stay focused, they make a commitment that they're going to double profit of their business this year, and they stay focused on it. I mean, a lot of what I do is help people stay focused. But let's say you can stay focused on it, you're going to double profit.
I think that this will be like our end of this discussion. But one thing is if one of the audience or a lot of the audience is interesting to contact you of this program of doubling the profit, so how can they contact you?
First, they can contact you and say, I like that. So that's the first way. The second way is they just go to theprofitbootcamp.com. And there's my website. Everything's there. It explains it. There's 7 questions that I put up there. You can answer those questions to see if it's suitable for you. And then that will come to me and then I'll reply.
Sure. So contact me or contact you.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yep.
Okay ครับ I think that will be the end of our second episode. I think the third episode we'll dig down more about the financial and how to double the profit in many ways. I like the concept that you're talking about, like the KPI. That should be the case. So I think that should be all.
Fantastic.
Thank you for
Thank
this
you.
episode ครับ
ครับ
ขอบคุณครับ
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 ขอบคุณทุกท่านที่ติดตามช่องคุยกับกงสีฝากกดไลค์กดติดตามเพื่อไม่พลาดเนื้อหาสาระดีๆในอนาคตรวมถึงฝากติดตามพวกเราได้ที่ช่องทางอื่นอาทิ Facebook Instagram หรืออื่นๆอีกมากมายตามที่ได้ระบุไว้และที่สำคัญที่สุดฝากกดแชร์เรื่องราวการพัฒนาธุรกิจครอบครัวให้กับเพื่อนๆพี่ๆน้องๆหรือคนในครอบครัวของเรากันได้เลยครับ